So hydrogen NMR differs from carbon-13 NMR in a few ways. The first thing that we need to consider is that we're dealing with carbon. We're not dealing with hydrogen. So when we're looking at for the number of peaks and location of peaks, all of that type of stuff, we're talking about a carbon-13 NMR, which means that when we're talking about different types of environments or peaks, we're talking about the carbon locations, okay? Or number of carbons, different types of carbons. The location of those peaks can differ quite a bit from what we saw with HNMR. So these can go easily from like 0 up to 220 parts per million. Okay, so those are going to be in a different location than what we've seen in hydrogen NMR. One of the things about carbon-13 NMR, carbon-13 is much less prevalent than what we are actually viewing when we view hydrogen NMR. So carbon-13 NMR, when it comes to the integration of peaks, is not going to be something that is reliable. So we are not looking at the peak integration at all with carbon-13 NMR. As a matter of fact, to be able to even get enough signal with carbon-13 NMR, these usually run 10, 12 hours, 14 hours. They can run higher than that. Much more iterations than what we have for a hydrogen NMR. And we do that to get a better signal because there's not great signal with carbon-13 just because there's so little of it. So that's something to keep in mind. Hydrogen NMR usually we're done in like 10 minutes or so. Okay. The last thing is when it comes to the splitting pattern. The splitting pattern is still n+1, at least when you count the number of hydrogen on that carbon, not next door. It has to be on that carbon. So this is hydrogen on that carbon. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. Okay, so just keep in mind when we're looking at carbon-13 NMR, we're talking about carbon, we're not talking about hydrogen anymore. Peak integration doesn't mean anything. Location of the peaks can be different. And the splitting pattern comes from the hydrogen that are attached to that carbon individually. The last thing I want to say about carbon-13 NMR, what I just told you is a specific kind of carbon-13 NMR. There are so many different ways to really look at carbon NMR that we can do 2D types of NMR. We can do all kinds of different types of specific arrangements with carbon-13 NMR that will not give you these results. I am specifically talking about how I will give you those results so that it's more clear and what we have to go with. Okay? Okay, thank you very much.